Good morning, hello, and welcome. My name is Nancy Melito. I am happy to be your worship leader today, and my pronouns are she and her. As we begin our service, I invite you to silence your phone. If you are at home, close other windows on your computer. We see you, we know what's going on. Take a deep breath and center yourself for worship. We open in welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like Olive Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomac Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We welcome the ancestors and we honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice.
Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Renkale, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home where we inspire each other to live our values. Together we care in community, grow in spirit, and act for justice. Whether you are a longtime member or a newcomer, or somewhere in between, we are so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome!
As we light our chalice today, we light the beacon of freedom that shines in the hearts of all, here in our United States and in all the peoples of the world. May we be an inspiration to those who are oppressed, to whom freedom seems very far away. Now, this month, our theme is Unity in Diversity, E Pluribus Unum, from Out of Many, One. Today, we are building on the idea of democracy that we introduced last week by actively voting on some elements of our service. To get us warmed up, we'd like to start with a word cloud. There will be a QR code up on the screen. You should be able to scan it with your mobile device. This is our first question, a congregational word cloud. Enter up to 3 words. What comes to mind when you think about voting or democracy? We'll give you some time to enter, and the results will be displayed on the screen. While you are doing that, I will also warn you, we will be choosing 2 of our songs today, as well as which reading to hear. And thank you for exercising your sacred privilege of suffrage with us today. Words that come to mind: choice, freedom, responsibility, independence. Okay, thank you. That worked out nicely. Thank you all for participating. And now, a word from 2 of our sponsors, Ben Franklin and George Washington.
Does it work? Oh. How do I? What a wonderful day, isn't it, Benjamin? The air feels fresher now that we're building a nation based on freedom.
Indeed, George. Do you remember why we wanted to change from monarchy to a democracy?
Absolutely. Under a monarchy, we were ruled by a king far away in England. He made decisions for us without understanding our needs or listening to our voices.
Life under the king was tough. He imposed heavy taxes, and we had no say in the matter. It was like living with a heavy weight on our shoulders.
Exactly. The king appointed governors who enforced his rules strictly. People could be punished harshly for speaking out or trying to make changes. It was as if our fate was determined by someone who didn't even know us.
The king's decisions often felt unfair. He sent soldiers to live in our homes without our permission. We couldn't make our own laws or govern ourselves.
We wanted to change that. We believe that people should have a say in their own government, and that's why we fought for democracy, where everyone's voice matters.
In a democracy, we can elect leaders who represent us and our ideas. We wanted a system where power comes from the people, not from a distant king.
It's about fairness and freedom. We wanted everyone to have the opportunity to contribute to our country's future.
And now, with a democracy, we can work together to build a nation where everyone has a chance to succeed and be heard.
Exactly, Benjamin. Our new government may not be perfect, but it's built on the idea that everyone matters.
And that, my dear friend, is why we chose democracy over monarchy, to give everyone the freedom to shape their own lives and their country.
Here's to the future, Benjamin, a future we can all be proud of.
Our outreach offering for this month is for UUSJ, which represents Unitarian Universalist values on Capitol Hill and with the federal government. Pablo de Jesus, the executive director of UUSJ, is with us this morning. He graduated from Oberlin College and has a master's degree in social policy from the University of Maryland. He's led UUSJ through a big transition from a DC area partnership of churches to a nationwide movement. Please welcome Pablo.
Good morning. First, I'm going to ask for your grace. I recently was in an accident and I lost my front tooth, so it's changed the way that I'm speaking a little bit. I sound funny to myself, at least. You may not hear, so just bear with me, folks. Second, I really do want to underscore something that John mentioned. Accotink is one of the founding congregations of UUSJ, and you guys are visionary. At every step of the evolution of UUSJ, you guys, your representatives within UUSJ, have led visionary thinking and discernment about how we should move forward and what the obstacles and stumbling blocks would be and how to overcome them. So I really want to celebrate who you are as a community, because I know that that bravery that your representatives within UUSJ, your active volunteers show, is part of your community, and it's something that they feel empowered to share with us at UUSJ, precisely because they know they have the support of you guys here in the congregation. And with that in mind, I want to thank John Peterson, and also Dean Wander and Kate Wander and Ed and Mary Kringer. They've all been active participants with UUSJ in various ways, sometimes stepping forward, sometimes stepping back, but nonetheless, they've maintained a very strong relationship with UUSJ. I also want to recognize that I'm appearing before you at a moment that sort of signals some serious stuff for our nation. Candidate Trump yesterday was fired upon. We're beginning to hear the story behind that. I don't know all the details. We're all learning those details in the press. But what we do know is that for the past 3 to 5 years, we've all felt the increasing vitriol in our country and the increasing unease about the way our democracy is functioning. And so as I speak to you today, I really want to remind you of something I said to you last year. Now is a season for Unitarian Universalists to step into our power. It is an opportunity and a moment where we really do need to organize our people and our money and our values and apply them in the public sphere. We need to actively and vigorously advocate for the values that we share as Unitarian Universalists. Because we are all living through a transformation, a season, a generational moment in our nation where we as Unitarian Universalists and those who side in favor of an inclusive, healthy, loving democracy, we really need to demonstrate something that I'm calling civic bravery. Because it's not going to be about just one election. It hasn't been about one. There have been multiple elections that have led us to this circumstance. What we really need to do is re-engage as a society in the basic function of our civil society. And that's going to require us doing multiple things on multiple levels, the federal, the state, and the community. That's going to require us advocating for some policies at one time and fighting against others at another time. And more than anything, it's going to require that we as Unitarian Universalists find the joy in long-term work, not just seasonal work, long-term work. I like to say at UUSJ, we're in it for the long haul and not the loophole. And I sincerely believe that we as a generation of folks participating in this election and the elections that are going to come after it and the session of Congress that's going to come after this election, we must be ready to weigh in favor of love in so many different ways. So I invite you to please pay attention to UUSJ. Know that you have a bunch of volunteers at Accotink who do pay attention to UUSJ and are involved in multiple ways, but really get ready to do your part. None of us alone can do it all. But if you find enrichment and invigoration for your spirit when you're doing witness, then please do as much of the witness that you can possibly do in your community and in Washington, D.C. and online. And if you feel invigorated, it speaks to your soul to be in those meetings with members of Congress or your state legislature or your community council, then go do that. We really need you to go do that and advocate for policies and positions and a worldview that reflects our Unitarian Universalist perspective for justice and love. And if you want to focus on educating yourself and then spreading the word among your networks, then please join our UUSJ events. We talk about some interesting and exciting things. We brought you speakers like David Pepper, who has a wonderful book on saving democracy. We've brought you speakers like Steve Phillips to talk about the root causes of what we're seeing. And we brought you professors like Lawrence Lessig, to talk about the fundamental dynamics in our democracy, the things that are causing all the stuff that we see and we feel. And when you do that work with UUSJ, you have the privilege and the wonderful joy of being in fellowship with other Unitarian Universalists and many others. So with that, I thank you for being a wonderful congregation and for having me down through the years on multiple occasions. And I invite you to check out our website and talk to me or talk to John or others about how you can get involved. We need you. Your country needs you. Your state needs you. Thank you.
My name is Moira Paz Pasa. My pronouns are she, her, and I am assisting Ren with being worship associate today. As before, I would like to ask you again to vote once again. So as I see, we're having more votes on who is freedom for. So let us begin. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Paraphrased from Martin Luther King Jr. We gather at Thanksgiving, in some sense, to retell the creation myth of our country. In this myth is our very best and our very worst, a boldness, a care for the common good, a wish to say we before I. Yet, from even before the first Thanksgiving feast, it's a story of theft and violence, and a ruthlessly narrow definition of who we really means. The colonists had come seeking freedom, and in that we identify with them. But it was freedom only for themselves. In every generation forward, from that day to this, the people living in this land that became America struggled always with the question, who is freedom for? Black people were taken from their native Africa to become slaves. Immigration laws were written explicitly to prohibit non-Western Europeans. Women could not vote even a century ago. In many states right now, gays and lesbians can be legally fired or evicted merely for not being straight. Refugees knock, and in response, voices to bar the door. The Universalist minister Clarence Skinner wrote a century ago, "The fight for freedom is never won. Each generation must win for itself the right to emancipate itself from its own tyrannies, which are ever unprecedented. Therefore, those who have been reared in freedom bear a tremendous responsibility to the world to win an even larger and more important liberty. So may it be for us. We are the inheritors of our liberty, won with sweat and labor and blood of generations before us. May we be a people committed to winning an ever larger liberty for generations that follow. Who is freedom for? May we answer today and always, every one of us.
Thank you, Moira. Our question today is, do you ever feel that you've been paralyzed by the number of choices offered to you? For instance, take coffee, one of my favorite things. There are so many choices these days that I find myself taking much more time to pick out one than, say, 20 years ago, before the craft coffee industry. Sometimes I just stand there and stare at the coffee section, not even sure where to start. The phrase, the tyranny of choice, describes this paralysis well. In Barry Schwartz's book, The Paradox of Choice, Schwartz explains this phenomenon, stating that while having choices can lead to freedom and empowerment, too many choices can lead to paralysis and dissatisfaction. One of Schwartz's central ideas is that of our basic personalities, dividing them into two types, maximizers and satisficers. That was not a mistake. The word he came up with is satisficer. Maximizers investigate every and all available choices, looking for the perfect one, while satisficers set criteria for what is important and stop looking once they have found what is good enough. So, what does this mean? Maximizers, it turns out, may have less satisfaction in their ultimate choice because they are looking for that elusive, perfect choice. Satisficers, on the other hand, tend to suffer less regret over their choices because they do not pursue perfection, but rather good enough. Personally, I have switched between these two methods depending on what kind of decision I have to make. This concept of the tyranny of choice and how people approach the choices they make has profound implications for voting behavior. In our modern democracy, the number of candidates, policies, and platforms can overwhelm voters, leading to voter paralysis, and therefore lower voter turnout, which is the bane of every election. The paradox of choice can make the act of voting feel daunting rather than empowering. The fear of making the wrong choice or the feeling that none of the choices is perfect can cause voters to decide not to vote at all. As one politician put it, the couch is the third choice in our current election cycle. For a Unitarian Universalist congregation, which values democratic principles and civic engagement, understanding this issue and addressing it of voters staying home is crucial. The outcome of many elections can and has been decided by the number of voters who get off the couch and go to the polls. So what do we do in the face of voter paralysis, of maximizing? Providing clear and concise, accurate information about candidates and issues can help mitigate the overwhelming nature of too many choices, ensuring that we not only advocate for civic duty, but also provide the tools to fulfill that duty. Encouraging a satisficer mindset could help congregants approach voting with more confidence and less anxiety, emphasizing the importance of participation over perfection. By adopting a satisficer approach and fostering a supportive community where congregants can discuss their options and share insights, we can overcome the tyranny of choice and encourage more active and confident participation in the voting process, ensuring that more people will get off the couch and vote.
Please rise now in body or in spirit and join us in our closing words. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is the unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
And so we end with this prayer from the very Reverend Selena Fox of Circle Sanctuary. Libertas, Goddess of freedom, be with us, guide us, help us uphold American democracy, religious freedom for all, and separation of church and state, now and in times to come. So mote it be, and blessed be all. Blessed be all. And can we have a hand for our youth?